Hello, and welcome to Season 5 of the Your Neurodiverse Relationship podcast. I'm Jodi, Carlton, your host, and I'm a neurodiverse relationship expert. But like so many of you, I've been on my own journey of discovering and understanding neurodiversity, both in my personal life with my family members and even myself, and professionally as a therapist and now relationship coach to people around the world. I'm often asked, can neurodiverse partner relationships actually work? And the answer is absolutely they can. Just like any relationship, there are core variables that influence whether or not you'll thrive as a couple. Neurodiverse relationships are no different, but they have the added layer of being neurodiverse, where one or both partners is neurodivergent. So this season, I've got a lineup of couples and partners who are in neurodiverse relationships that are working. They get real personal with me about the challenges they have faced and how they've overcome those challenges in their relationships. Let's get started. All right. Today I've got Jeremy and Charity here with me today, and I'm really excited to have the two of you on the show because you are a neurodiverse couple. You have your own podcast, you're coaches, and you're making it work. So that's what this whole series is about. Let's just start with you introducing yourself to our viewers and listeners.
So I am Charity Rochford. I am wife and mom of the house. And as we will get into it, I'm the odd man out. I'm the neurotypical.
Sorry.
And we have 2 kids.
Yep.
So we'll get into that as well. But yeah, so I'm the neurotypical.
I'm Jeremy, probably the most autistic of the group, kind of the bloodline that started a lot of this, where both kids are on the spectrum. We run NeuroFam, which is a coaching practice, and we've got the podcast. I've got my bachelor's in communication. And so kind of came to the conclusion, instead of using public relation practices to help companies sound better talking to each other, let's help couples actually start to sound better in their communication. And so it's a very quick snapshot of who we are. I'm the dad. So.
Yeah, I will. Obviously, this will be in our show notes, but could you go ahead and tell folks your website and the name of your podcast?
So our website is neurofam.com. The podcast is NeuroFM, which you can also find at neurofm.com. And the goal of the podcast is to be the least depressing neurodivergent podcast in the world.
I remember seeing that.
We found when we got into this space, not just with our diagnosis, but trying to help others, that there can be a lot of darkness around this. There's a stigma, whether it's autism, ADHD. And we found that it's actually freeing to know that we're on the spectrum, because it explains so many behaviors. And so we want to bring that side of the reality to the journey. We want to bring the positivity, because you hear a lot of the negative and the
doomsday
game. And it's like, our life has gotten exponentially better since each diagnosis occurred. So the whole goal of the podcast is to kind of give that voice some amplification and to say, marriages don't have to end. You weren't duped. There is a way towards happiness and joy. It might look different than you expected, but what journey doesn't?
Yeah, that's really one of the reasons why I'm doing this whole series, this season of my podcast, because there is a lot of focus on the challenges, and there's so many myths out there about it's just not possible. I see people on my YouTube channel just run if don't stay in a relationship, and I'm like, hold on. Neurodiversity is only one layer of who we are. And there are neurodiverse couples who are misaligned, just like neurotypical couples can be misaligned. And there are other dysfunctional things and traits that can prevent a neurodiverse relationship from working. But it's the neurodivergence itself is rarely the problem. So I cannot wait to hear what you guys have to say. And that's what this whole season's about. I want to circle back to what you just said about, instead of helping companies learn how to communicate, let's help couples. I actually refer to couples as a company sometimes. I'm like, think about your partner as like your co-founder, and would you talk to your co-founder of your company? Or, and so I use that analogy, and people are like, oh, even in dating, I'm like, look for somebody that you're willing to trust your company.
Right.
And look for that person that aligns with you. So anyway, I just wanted to share that.
Nice. We are totally aligned on this conversation.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome. We're already vibing then.
Yeah.
So let's just jump right in. Where do you want to start, and what message you'd like to share?
I guess we should add in that we have been married 20 years. We had dated 4 years before that. So we've been together a while.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the neurodiversity part, the neurodivergence probably entered about 5 years ago, first with the kids, which then started a multitude of questions, which led to answers, which led to more questions, which led to more answers, which I think finally got us to a place of understanding.
Mhm.
And kind of like you said, neurodiversity or neurodivergence isn't quite the problem, but it
Mm.
might be something that makes solving the problem more challenging.
Yes, absolutely.
From our coaching standpoint, the autism, the ADHD doesn't excuse the behavior, but it explains it.
Yeah.
And if we can at least understand the why, we can
Mhm.
then ask what's the best direction to solve the what.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you guys, we are so aligned because I think I've said those exact words before, and I'm constantly taking my clients through like the layers of why.
Yeah.
Why
Mhm.
is that? And why is that? And why is that? Something you just said is also such a common pattern is it starts with the kids. The kids get
Mhm.
identified as something different's going on here, and then or the school system or somebody's like, what's happening here? And then they get identified as neurodivergent in some way, whether it's ADHD or autism or sensory processing or dyslexia or just one of the things. And
Mhm.
then the parents or some I've had grandparents come to me in their 70s going, okay, my granddaughter got diagnosed. And that's how it was in my family too. I don't even know that we have the neurotypical representative in the family. I don't think that person exists. So just tell me more about that journey for you guys.
Yeah. So ours was identified by our son's preschool program.
Mm,
It was a long, kind of not quite clear process, right? Because they didn't want to come out and say, hey, we think this about your kid.
mm,
So it was you should probably have your child evaluated. So we had a behavioral therapist come in and a behavioral specialist who did therapy as well came in and observed our son in preschool and said, oh, okay, well, he has sensory issues. So we'll get a sensory box, blah, blah, blah. And the director was like, yeah, no, that's not it. You're going to have to go back and get some more. So then we went and got on the wait list. We were figuring maybe ADHD, that would make sense to him or to us. He was the
mhm.
only boy we had. So Sunday school teachers would just say, oh, he's all boy. Here, you can have him back. So we just figured that was what all boy was like.
Yeah.
Mhm,
We didn't know any different.
mm,
So after our months of waiting, I had actually met with a friend who's a special education teacher while we were preparing for our full child psychiatrist evaluation process. And for her to help kind of walk me through what I was going to need to know ahead, we'd gotten our initial first step of questionnaires. And just through the conversation with her, she planted the seed of like, yeah, it might be autism. I was able to see it through her and see it in a very positive light because
mhm.
I was a psychology major. To me, it was all just, oh, okay, this is a new, interesting thing that I should learn more about and be prepared and figure out how to help.
Right.
That's just my thing. I'm the helper in the family, right? Jeremy was not quite as positive right away.
Slow to adopt the belief,
There
the
you go.
understanding.
Can I jump in and ask you,
Yeah.
Jeremy, what from your perspective, because I know that is a thing for a lot
Yeah.
of people. What was going through your mind? What was part of that slow to process?
Being a child of the 80s, at least from my perspective, with a lot of these things you grow up with, you kind of timestamp them when you first learn about them. So when I hear
Mhm.
autism, I think Rain Man, I think all these things from
Absolutely.
the 80s. I
Yep.
think mental deficiency, not mental difference. And
Mhm.
so that was my deeply held belief that hadn't need to be challenged until then. And
Mhm.
so my default was, wait a minute, here's all these negative things I learned about it when I was going through school.
Mhm.
It must still be the same. And
Right.
so I think for me, that was where a lot of hesitancy was, hoping that there wasn't an autism diagnosis
Mhm.
because I knew a 1980s autism diagnosis,
That's what you were picturing for the
right?
future for
Yeah.
your son. Yeah.
Exactly. And so it wasn't until Charity really brought me out of my comfort zone to challenge those beliefs of, wow, okay, wait, that person's autistic? They seem so normal. That person
Yeah.
autistic? They're hilarious. Wait, I thought autistics couldn't communicate. What's going on here? Right.
Mm.
And kind of bring me along to what autism is in the 2020s, not the
Mhm.
1980s. That's where my hesitance came from, was a 40-year delay of understanding and not paying attention to the research that we have now.
Yeah.
I think that's such a valuable thing that you're sharing, because a lot of times it's a partner who starts to realize this is neurodivergence, this is autism. And then when they bring it to their spouse, there's that heels digging in and, whoa, that is not what I am, because that definition of what autism is. I know my generation too. My first exposure to the word was Rain Man, was the movie Rain Man. And so that narrative has never been updated. It's never really had a reason to be. I'm working with a couple right now. She told me on the side, she's like, he still doesn't like it when you say autism. And I'm like, okay. Thanks for letting me know. And it is a process. I've been working with a man whose one son had been diagnosed with Asperger's back in the day. And I clearly saw that the other son was autistic, and the dad too. But when I brought that to him, he's like, oh no, and it was because they were like 3 different groupings of traits. And
Yeah.
so to him, that one grouping, he accepted that his one son was Asperger's, autistic, but not him and not his other child, but they very much were. So I think that's very relevant.
Well, I think it's a really good segue, honestly, into how we discovered our daughter was on the spectrum, because a lot of the questions we were going through to prepare for the test, because they kind of give you this questionnaire of like, do you recognize these things in your child, to kind of give the psychiatrist like a heads up to what
Like
they
how often do they do this? How often do they, the classics are like, how often do they line up toys? And then the examples are all very boy driven, like lining up trucks and cars. But as we went through, there were some traits in there where we'd be like, oh, Jonathan doesn't do that, but Corinne does that all the time. Maybe we should get her evaluated for something. And I should add in, so Jonathan is diagnosed autism level 2 plus ADHD. His was the most evident to society. So that's why his got picked up first. And then, yes, as we were going through the evaluation and looking at things and being like, oh, wow, that sounds like our daughter. Attention kind of focused on him for a little while. And then when we had the brain space to look more, I was doing a lot of watching videos, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the ways that I take in things and process them really well, is to have real world examples. So watching a lot of Tony Atwood videos.
Yeah.
And please interlude. Go
Oh, well, like that's going to lead us to the next part of the story.
Okay.
Which was, as Dr. Atwood was doing a really great job explaining how women tend to mask better, and that's why it's so hard to diagnose. And you may get 2 of the 5, but you don't get the extra. And so you kept sending me these videos about these like middle-aged New Zealand guys or these middle-aged Australian guys who are on the spectrum. And my first response was, this was great, but I think they're a little old for our daughter. I don't know if they'll resonate. Which was your very nice, polite, covert way of saying, we're chasing the Y, probably going to end at you. And I just wasn't getting it.
You weren't getting the subtle cues at all.
But I was becoming more open to the reality, because once Jonathan got diagnosed, it was very much a fighting this isn't going to change it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you did slowly go into it, because you were like, okay, so it's a thing, but do we have to tell anybody?
What did that mean to you, Jeremy?
Well, again, going back to the stigma of there being such a close association with other mental deficiencies, and still holding that, because this is my first true experience.
Right.
And so it then begat all the questions of, will people look at him different? Will people have different expectations for him? All those things where, yes, we can control how we react to it internally and the narrative we create for him. But if we take that beyond our control, how much harder are we going to have to work if we build up this belief of what it can be to him, and then you have some ignorant person just destroy that, and now it's like all that work we did is now undone by someone's ignorance, or by a clinician who doesn't fully understand, or a teacher who doesn't understand or doesn't care to understand. So for me, it was more protective of, this is our reality. How can we build a foundation that's strong enough that's not going to be wrecked by an outside influence? That was my greatest concern of sharing. And then all of the perceived stupid questions that would follow. and
Mhm.
trying to always have to defend my son as a label rather than a person.
And clearly, you've gone from that, now you have a podcast.
So much.
So that's
Yes.
quite a journey, and
Yeah.
I completely relate to that one as well, because I'm also out here now trying to really spread the awareness and the education and really shift the paradigm of what we understand about what neurodiversity and autism is. Okay, so talk me through. So you're learning, you're starting to realize you're recognizing this in your son, you're seeing maybe your daughter. Charity's starting to see maybe it's Jeremy too. And how was this affecting the two of you as a couple?
For me, I feel like I kind of got lucky in that as a mom, you have this just automatic internal compassion for your children and all the challenges they go through.
Mhm.
And so when I would see our son being challenged by certain things or our daughter struggling through something, that would make me feel the same for Jeremy. So instead of things that had previously been like, oh, come on, get it together. You're an adult. Like, when he get angry off the hand, what felt like out of the blue. Now we know that it was building, building, building. And then he hits the autistic burnout or just having a meltdown, like a grown man meltdown. Right.
Yeah, the
Um,
sensory overload, the spoons
right.
are gone.
Right. Like,
Dysregulated, like mine went to 11.
right. Like
Mhm.
because through the years there were all these other reasons for all of those things, right? Like his sensory to loud noises. He had always just been like, "Well, I'm the only one who cares about my ear health," right? So it was always like, "Okay, you're just making a fight. You're just pitching a fight to fight. You don't care about your ear health more than anybody else." But coming forward and getting to see it through the kids and like, oh my gosh, Jonathan is really affected by loud noises that he doesn't make.
Key differentiator there.
Right. So, getting to look at that and see like, oh, that's really stressful for him. That's a real challenge for him. And instead of seeing it through the way that I had for 15 plus years of, oh, he's just being like too much, right? To, oh my gosh, this is a sensory thing. This has never been identified as a sensory thing. I can have compassion for that.
Mhm.
And my response comes from a completely different place. And because of seeing it in the kids, and my automatic reaction is compassion for the children and what they're going through, it made it so much easier for me to see things in that way with Jeremy.
And from my perspective, this might seem irrelevant and random, but it lays the foundation for the answer. So about 20 or so years ago, I went on a weight loss journey where I lost 200 pounds without surgery.
Mhm.
And this was late 90s, early 2000s. So it's
Okay.
not like you could just Google, how do you lose weight?
Right.
You
right.
had to
Yeah.
figure it out.
It was no Biggest Loser.
Yeah. And surgery wasn't an option because my father was very much of the reality that it's not a lack of surgery in your life that's causing you to be overweight. So adding
Mhm.
surgery to your life isn't going to solve it. But also they were overweight, so they couldn't help. So I kind of devised a plan of this is what I need to do to lose weight. So lost 200 pounds, kept it off since then. And I brought that reality into the autism of, okay, inherently you don't come factory installed with some executive function. Okay,
Mm.
we know that. So if I need to be empathetic and I don't have empathy, what do I need to do to learn empathy? If I lack theory of mind and I need theory of mind, what do I need to do to strengthen my theory of mind? And I started looking at the executive function things from the mental aspect almost as a physical aspect of,
Mhm.
okay, I have weak arms. I need to do arm exercises. Okay, I have lacking theory of mind. What can I do to better understand theory of mind, apply it in my own terms so that I benefit from it, but so too do those around me? And
Mhm.
so, in the same way where Charity will feel that she got lucky because she has this compassion, nurturing understanding of kids, I feel like I got lucky to have Charity to help me find that balance of accommodation
Mm.
while I'm striving to advocate for myself to be as competent and reliable as possible, and not to sit back and go, well, I wasn't born with these things, so you're just gonna have to deal. In the same
Yeah.
way, like I didn't want to stay overweight, so I had to figure out how to change that. I
Mhm.
didn't want to be the husband or the father who wasn't able to participate and meet these expectations that
Mhm.
society deemed as normal. So it was the drive of going, what do I need to do to operate in this world that's not designed for me?
Mhm.
All the while Charity is running alongside of me saying, yes, but let's take the accommodations where we can make them. So things like if noise is an issue, what type of headphones? Well, headphones don't work because they press my glasses. Okay, well,
Mhm.
are there noise canceling earbuds? Yes, but only certain ones because some will create a suction, which is another sensory issue. But having the patience to go through 5 to 10 different pairs
Mhm.
till we finally got the right one, and having that nice balance of her accommodating that experience, all the while I'm driving to have that experience. So that way, with the earbuds, I can still be present. I can still be in the noisy situation my son is
Mhm.
creating without being dysregulated myself and lashing out at him because I need that sensory protection.
Yeah.
As an adult, I was smart in the situation, found a way to figure out the situation so our son can be a kid, but I can also be involved.
So even using that systematic logic to figure out the accommodation. And Charity, I want to hear from you. I have a question for you about accommodation, but I want to just respond to what you're saying because I find it fascinating that those of us who are in this space of figuring this out and even working with other people are coming to so many similar conclusions and even using some of the same language without ever having met each other, because I use the software and hardware analogy a lot. And I talk about the hardware you're born with and then software that's installed and then needing a software upgrade or figuring out what you need. And then one of my more popular podcast episodes a couple of seasons ago was with David Glick, he is autistic, but also a therapist. And the name of the podcast was You Needed Updated Software, because he was talking about that. And then here you are talking about it too. And oftentimes I use the analogy of all three of us are wearing glasses right now. And so we have this hardware. Our eyes are not seeing effectively. And my son started wearing glasses when he was in first grade. And do we just go around life going, I can't see very well, but you need to accommodate that? Or do we go to the eye doctor and get ourselves some glasses, you know? And it takes the shame out of it because people feel so much shame when they're like, "Oh, I was born this way. There's nothing I can do about it." It's like, "Well, hold on. You were born this way, but is there nothing you can do about it?" I think there probably is something you can do about it. So I just wanted to say it's really cool to me that we're all kind of understanding it in this similar way. Charity, as far as the accommodation goes, one of the things that I get so much, I have a Facebook group with about 2,600 members, and we have neurodivergent and neurotypical men and women in there. And we don't allow any kind of bashing anybody, any neurotype. And the whole point is for people to be able to talk amongst each other, ask questions, understand each other. And one of the things that comes up a lot is this resentment of neurotypical partners for, why do I have to be the one to accommodate? And I would love to hear you speak to that.
That's a hard question. Like, why do we have to do it? Again, I feel like I'm lucky because I do have the kids first, right? So I see it through the eyes of my kids also. Like, I can't divorce that question from my children
Mhm.
as well. If I see them struggling and I can do something differently that is going to make it not as much of a challenge and help them be the
Mhm.
them that I know they can be, why would I not do it?
Mhm.
Right? Like, we've developed some different processes now, but we had our cars a different driving experience, right?
Mhm.
So when the kids were in the car with me, I'm theater carpool mom, right? And so we do carpool theater karaoke and it's musicals at the top of our lungs. And like, there's just full kid autonomy and they can do whatever they want and be loud in my car.
Mhm.
And we had Jeremy's car. Like, our way of setting that up was to make it so, okay, his car was going to be more quiet.
So we're at the museum in Jeremy's car. We're at the museum and we're
What
using our museum voices.
Well, it started out with smart words. So
Mhm.
we would listen to some appropriate audiobooks and things like that because I didn't want it to be such a lame experience. Like I didn't want the ladies to have all the fun. But I also knew that the kids screaming at the top of their lungs would feel like hell on earth. And
Mhm.
so, the original iteration before the earplugs and everything was smart words. So like, let's listen to podcasts and stuff like that that are educational, but are also kind of fun, but dad can control the volume. And because
Mhm.
they're podcasts and
Dad controls what's
audiobooks,
on, dad controls the volume. Right.
but because they're podcasts and audiobooks, you don't expect them to be blaring at the top of the
Like that
speaker.
there's no participation with the activity.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's
Right.
just the one sound that he's expecting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's an example of an accommodation that really, that's not a negative to me in any way. Right. So yes, I'm doing things, but they're not things that are hard to me. Yeah, they're different, but I don't feel woe is me. I do have some sensory differences, right? I was the first one to say years and years and years ago, like, hey, I
Where'd you
don't
go?
like certain things. Like, we don't generally vacation at the beach, even our honeymoon. Everyone else was like, oh, we're going to Sandals or we're going to this beach. Where are you guys going? And I was looking at him. He's a ginger. And me, and I'm thinking, like, no, well, we like potatoes. So we agreed to go to Idaho.
Which, like, that being the response, it's like, can I marry you twice? Because as a former fat kid, the idea of taking your shirt off at the beach, not awesome. And then being
Right.
someone who's brutally ginger and Caucasian, I have two pigments. I have white or I have red. There is no in for me. But yeah, but to your point,
Yeah, I've kind of been making accommodations for my own sensory stuff. There are just some smells that I cannot stand and
Mhm.
I will avoid like the plague. I do those things for myself to make me not completely grossed out, right? I do that for me and it's not this super difficult thing and it's just okay, that's just the next thing to do. I don't look at them negatively. So I think anything that we do for you or the kids, it's felt almost like a fun game of like, ooh, what new thing can we put into play that actually works, right? Like the visual clocks have been amazing. So we have the clocks that are paired with our Amazon speakers that we use for a lot of things. And I love Disney stuff. So I got to get Mickey Mouse ones. So now, the kids, when we're prompting them for a transition, we'll let them know, like, hey, you've got 20 more minutes to play. Instead of me being the one to say, okay, now I have to remember to give them a prompt at 10 minutes. I have to remember to give them a prompt at
Mhm.
5 minutes. Now we've gotten to the point where I can say, hey, kids, you've got 20 more minutes, set your timer. They're learning the step of themselves. And now we're getting to the point where I don't even have to prompt them as much. All I can say is, okay, here's 20 minutes. They know, okay, I'm going to audibly set my timer and all they have to do is talk to it.
Mhm.
And then they can see how much time they have left. So every time they think like, oh, how much time do I have left? They can look up at the clock and it's showing them visually how many more minutes they have. And
Mhm.
then it goes off to let them know when their time's up. That's another accommodation that we use in the house. For me, it was just a bonus because I got Mickey Mouse clocks in the house.
But it makes everybody's quality of life so much better.
Right. So I don't see accommodating in our household as a negative.
and I'd be interested to see as well, just to kind of compare experiences from a clinical and professional standpoint, the wives that we work with who feel the bitterness and the resentment is compounded quite often by the autistic husband not really trying. Like the autistic will say, well, why wouldn't you make these accommodations? I'm the one with the
Mhm.
clinical diagnosis. The ones who are able to get through that bitterness and to get through that resentment are the ones who see the genuine effort coming from their husband. And they could go, well, I'm doing this extra effort, but he's seeing the effort I'm making and he's making effort. And I found that the couples that we work with that really make it both parties are pulling the rope.
I 100% agree with that. This whole series is about what are those ingredients that can make a neurodiverse relationship work. The 3 pillars that I say are necessary are capacity, willingness, and motivation. And so somebody has to have that capacity. And if they don't, they have to be willing to look at what kind of glasses can I put on? What kind of software can I upgrade? But if they're not willing or motivated to do that, then now we have a misalignment problem. So I absolutely agree with you there. But the other layer, I'll just add to what you said,
Yeah.
is a lot of times it's other things that aren't even related to neurodivergence that are brought in. Trauma history with other relationships or childhood trauma, where there's just a huge insecurity and a need to be validated and affirmed and reassured that you're loved. And then, neurodiverse couples oftentimes communicate love in so many different ways, or person's looking to be affirmed in one way and the other person's not doing that. And so there's just a lot of layers there that, again, it doesn't go back to just the neurodiversity itself. It's the personality traits and the willingness and motivation. And I want to go back to what you were saying too, Charity. Well, first of all, I just have to say timers were a godsend in my household. I raised my kids before a lot of this new technology really came on the scene there. I went and got these little egg timers. They were like $2. And we had them everywhere, like every room of the house, every car. They were so effective and helpful that they could see that visual and get that transition period. And I also wanted to say, I think what you said about being a mom is also very relevant, because I know that I certainly find that compassion myself. And there are times when I hear these conversations about, would you even want to be in the relationship with someone who's autistic? I'm like, hey, you're talking about my daughter. She's a wonderful human being and is fully capable of having self-awareness. But I love what you said about the accommodations. You're saying it's not hard. It's not something you think of as a problem. Because really what it comes down to, there's just this basic regard for who we are as human beings. And this is who you are. This is who I am. This is who our children are. And what can we do because I love you, because I love them? What can we do to make everybody's quality of life better? And where it gets tricky is when people also feel like I have to accommodate you at my own expense. And
Yes.
so that's a key. If you want to speak to that, how do you accommodate, but also make sure you're not being harmed in the process?
Do you want to answer that or you want me to?
Well, you can chime in.
Cool. Where a lot of this could be curbed is, did the two of you ever have a conversation pre-marriage of what an ideal marriage looks like?
Mm-hmm.
And most honestly haven't. And
Right.
so what happens is spouse 1 will come in with expectations and spouse 2 will come in with different expectations.
Mm-hmm.
They're never communicated.
Mm-hmm.
And so off the bat, they are prone to not meet each other's expectations. Then you throw in a differing neurotype who can't understand their reaction to this disappointment. And then it just kind of spirals from there. And
Yeah.
so from our standpoint, working with the couples of trying to reset and go, okay, and there's a book called Thanks for the Feedback that talks about, it's not the communication that's the issue, it's the communication system that's the issue. Kind of looking at marriage the same way. It's not the people that's the issue, it's the marriage system. And most parties never actually created a marriage system. So no wonder it doesn't work. And so going back and establishing that system to take the pressure off the you're wrong. No, I'm wrong. No, you're wrong. Well, no, the system's wrong. And neither of us are wrong because we never actually established it. We have found that that really helps make things better as it pertains to the resentment and the frustration and the entitlement and all the things.
Yeah, I think so too. And I have an entire communication course and a model that I developed because of what you just said. I even have this analogy. People who follow me, I've heard it 100,000 times, of this backpack, like a virtual backpack that you carry with you, and everything that's in it makes you who you are at any given moment in time. Those expectations, the values, your history, it's all in there. And a lot of times people are just showing up and interacting without even being really aware of the why. The why is what's in your backpack. Why do I feel hurt by what you just said? And well, it's because I expected you to say something different. Well, why did I expect you to say something or do something different? And why did you have a different expectation? It just helps people unpack where those breakdowns are.
When you were talking, I was thinking about another piece just to answer the last question a bit more on my side too. there have been some accommodation pieces. Like, I love Disney. I worked in the Disney parks. I'm on a Disney podcast. I love Disney. And I love going down to the parks. When I initially envisioned going down to the parks, it was as a family. He would be like my podcast panel mates, right? He would eventually love it as much as I do. And, looking at the way that they pose that question of like, well, what do you have to do? You're giving up things essentially to be able to accommodate them. Well, part of accommodating Jeremy is knowing that whole Disney park experience is too much for him.
Mm-hmm.
So now it looks different. I don't not get to do it, right?
Mhm.
Now we've worked things out so that, maybe it's me and the kids, or me and the kids and my mom. Or I'll go with friends now. I'll go on trips by myself. I still get to really enjoy the things that I love, and it just looks differently, right? Now we've figured out that he actually doesn't mind Disney cruising. It's a different experience. And so it is something that we get to do together as a family, and I still get to do some of those things. It just doesn't look the way I imagined it would.
And that's true of life,
Not
though,
a
isn't
negative.
it?
It's
We imagine what life's going to be, and then it definitely doesn't always turn out that way. Jeremy, what were you going to add?
And I think from the guy side too, being appreciative of that. I've worked with a lot of guys who would respond very differently in that situation where I don't like Disney, so why would we go to Disney? Let's go to my special interests.
Right.
And I go, well, why should she suffer because of something I don't appreciate?
Mm-hmm.
Likewise, why would I diminish? Because there's a lot of guys who'd be like, Disney's stupid. How old are you? Shouldn't y'all be growing up? And it's like, well, no, like she loves that. In the same way, you could ask a grown man, why are you wearing another grown man's jersey? Like, that's not you. You're not playing for that team.
That's
Why
a
are
good
you-
point.
Right. And so, like, if she's not going to belittle my special interests of NASCAR or of hockey or things like this, why would I belittle the things that have deep emotional attachments to our childhood? And so, on one hand, yes, all the things you said, but also in terms of both parties kind of pulling the rope, I've done everything I can to say, well, regardless of how I feel about that, even if I don't like it or appreciate it, why would I diminish it? Why does someone have to feel bad over something I don't appreciate?
I think that's such an important message for, in particular, our autistic thinkers who have that sometimes difficulty with that theory of mind and recognizing that your point of view, your perspective is really valid to you. And what I'm hearing from you both, that one of that fundamental ingredient there is mutual respect and mutual regard, that even though you are really different from me, and in a lot of ways I cannot relate to you at all, but I still really respect you and value you and recognize that your experience is just as valid for you as it is for me. I really think that's one of the most fundamental ingredients of a healthy relationship, no matter neurotype. It's just fundamental. So I want to just thank you both. This has been a delightful conversation. Obviously, we could talk on for hours and hours. So if you ever want to come back, please just reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you again.
Thank you.
We'd love to.
Yeah, this was great. Thank you.
That's a wrap for today's episode. Be sure to subscribe or follow the podcast so you won't miss any of these amazing interviews. And as always, if you're benefiting and enjoying this podcast, please give us a review. It really helps other people know that this podcast is really beneficial and worth listening to. Thanks for watching on YouTube or tuning in to your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to visit me online at jodicarlton.com for more resources. I have assessment quizzes, educational articles, courses, and more. And if you have any questions, just reach out to my team at gethelp@jodicarlton.com. Until next time.